I'm so glad that everyone seems to be having a good time. I'm on, right? Yeah, I'm on. Yeah.
I can't hear you.
Everyone seems to be, it's all on. Can you get me the?
No.
Yeah. It's on. Yeah. Okay, so I'm very encouraged. I've had people, actually, somebody said, this is our place. Nobody is driving us out. I said, no, we will not sleep here, though. We need to move. But that's very good. I'm hoping that what we've done today can show you how much I think that this is critical. The intergenerational building, that's where we spent a bulk of our time and gave us opportunity to sit down and to think through. I want to wrap up very quickly with a topic that is very, very critical. And that is simple. Michelangelo, that's the famous painter. One of the things he said is the difficulty is not that we aim so high and we miss it. He said really the problem is that we aim so low and we get it. And so when we talk about this now building of intergeneration, I want us to think high. I want us to think not that we want to be like the Indians or the Chinese or the Jews or any other group. I want you to be bold, and let me ask you, what stops us from being higher than those people? What, except in our minds? I want you to be asking the question, have we reached what God intended for us to be? So what I'd like to do now is to wrap up with some practical things that you need to understand. I've been trying to be as honest and as transparent to you as possible. What you find in this society is that there is hurdles that many of us or all of us have to overcome. There are some things. And one of the key things I want you to know is that this perception is very critical. How you carry yourself, how you conduct yourself in the marketplace is very critical. If you watch the larger society, the Caucasian society, simple thing like being on time is critical. They don't accept, even when they don't say it, your excuses that there was accident on the road and your daughter or your son went X and Y. Perception is very, very critical. And you have to look through as we go through. I want to hide, that's one thing I want to live with that. So as you go, we talked about image. We talked about how you carry yourself. We talked about grooming. All of those things make whom you are. When things are not going your way, what do? Do you carry on and just live? And sometimes when people have perception, it is in your hands to change those perceptions. There was a lady now, she's in this business, she's one of the people that are going to be working for me. No, we traveled. I never knew this. So, and we were coming back from DC to Detroit, and we happened to sit together. After that, the 1 day or 1 week in DC, we were sitting together going, she said to me, spending this time with you have changed me. Changed my views about you. I didn't know she had the views about me. And I said, so, if Joseph will know the person, because she has followed me now from my job when we worked together to the other job, and now she's following me. But I didn't know she had a perception. I said, what's the perception? She said, I watched you in DC, and as we were there, you had friends that you could interact with, but you tried to include me, you had my voice and all that. She went on the perception they had about me. And at the end I said, but what gave you that impression? She said, you are an African man. In Africa, you don't respect women. You know, we got to a point where we had Candid, but she was carrying this all along. I never knew that perception. To her, it was real. And through that, she became my advocate. When people would say things about, oh, no, don't say, I know him. So you need to find ways to understand that. Some of the things you take for granted, check it out. If you have those mentors, they will relate to you. Because sometimes it's reputation. And it's sometimes what people say to them. So be aware of that. Are we having problem with this? Can you put it in slide mode? That my brother is very gifted. A physician, video man, PC man, everything. Yeah. So give him a... Okay. So what does that mean by perception? Is corporate culture is critical. So you need to understand what that culture is. Know the company that you're working for. And in operations, be visible. Do they know you? You know, I learned this as I was growing. I made efforts to understand and the type of assignment who helps me get to the right place. Remember we talked about exposure. And I also found it. And I find that the white society don't understand and do that more. One of the conversations I have generally when I meet young people, I go to different offices. When I was in the corporate world, I would see a young lady and I would say, so then they would make the little conversation. She says, a civil engineer. And I would ask something like, how did you decide to be a civil engineer? What were the things that guided you? And he would say, my grandfather was a civil engineer. And my father was a civil engineer. Right there, if you put her with somebody who has no idea, who maybe as was going up, his father said, engineers make good money. Ada, you must be an engineer. You put them in there, it's not quite the same. In Ada's mind, she's not an engineer, she's a civil engineer, so she's a doctor, PhD and all that, so she will say I'm not talking about her. So, but the point is that when she comes in, she has scaled the unscalable. She comes in with different expectations. And those different expectations cause her to interact and display herself in different ways that will create some perceptions that she was not even aware of. We talked about the Africans and all that. A little thing that we do, arrogance and confidence are almost two different coins. Little thing ticks us off. And we're almost to say, you don't know who I am. I wish you knew. If you knew, you would not be talking to me that way. Because I came to your country. That's why. But you haven't gone home, oh. One of the things I ask people when I meet young people, especially when they get a new job, I did it with one top person here, she liked me and we talked. I asked people, what is your exit strategy? I asked the lady, she said, I just got this job. I said, I know, but I'm asking you, what is your exit strategy? Your exit strategy is not when they lay you off. How are you preparing the next job? That's what I also find with the society that we're in. A smart, young, white man, as soon as he gets the job, and he's 30% qualified for the next job, he has started aiming for that job. And that's what some of our young people do. Immediately they get to the job, and they say, wait, you just had this one for 6 months. You haven't learned it. They get in there with their exit strategy. For many of us, our exit strategy is when they knock on the door and say, the time is off. And you get so frustrated. And you get to talk about things. It's when you get in there. What I mean by exit strategies, how are you developing your skill sets? Because no condition is permanent. But we go in and we believe it's so permanent. I'm doing my performance, and therefore they owe me things. No one owes you. For a minority, that's why we are talking about this mentor. That's what we're talking about, becoming and hooking up with yourself, so that you can begin to say the opportunities that I'm provided. How do I build it into the next steps? What do I go with that? Successful people, once they get in, they are beginning to think, in 2 years or 3 years, where does this experience take me? We don't think about that. We think about, my performance evaluation is coming up. How do I get the next 5,000? How do I get the next 2,000? And you spend all that time spinning without asking, what is the next step? I ask you today, in the job that you have, what is your exit strategy? Before I came to Atlanta, I had an exit strategy. If you ask me, I'll tell you. And some people that were close, I said, I'm not in this position. I will not be there for more than 5 years. I have other plans. So everything I was doing, by the grace of God, was aiming me towards my exit strategy. So exit strategy is not when they force you out. And when we stay and they force us out, we become so bitter because we were unprepared. So for a minority, you need to begin to think about that. The other one is you are the one responsible for creating your own career blueprint. It's not your boss. And when I talk to people under my thing, I tell them it is not my responsibility to build their career. It's my responsibility to create the right environment, to create the enabling power, to coach you if you want. But your career is in your hands. And your career can be best in your hands. So don't go in expecting that someone else will lay out that for you. Unless if you have a good mentor and a good advocate or a good group that surrounds you. You and God are responsible for your career. That's why these things are work. What we do in many cases, we don't think through about career. We think about, how can I work 16 hours a day? How can I work 18 hours a day? Think about when your strength would fail you. When you are not able to do 18 hours a day, then what happens? I think I'm going. There was another one that I missed. Yeah. Career killers that you must avoid. One of them, and we shouldn't really mention it in the Christian fold, but it's there, unethical behavior. It should not be once mentioned among us. It kills careers. Sometimes the mistake that we make is that we say, well, Mr. X does it and goes through. And then you do it. It's like, everybody is speeding. And then the policeman catches you. You get so upset. Everybody is speeding. But that did not stop the fact that you were speeding.
Thank you.
And for minorities, you are in greater danger of that. So think about that. Many of the other things that we do is we're not able to articulate our value. What is your value proposition to the company? What is the value proposition of where you are? It's not, I'm working hard. That should be taken for granted. How is what you are doing helping the organization get to where they want to go? That's the kind of thing you need to understand as a minority, and you need to know how to place it. Okay. Here are some of the things that you need to think about. What are the must-have skills? If you look at that, there is none that says masters. Is there? There's none that says undergraduate. There's none that says PhD or double PhD. And that is sometimes many of the frustrations about we Africans. We have 2 PhDs, and yet the person that is your boss has an undergraduate degree and maybe has 5 years experience, and you can't handle it. Be honest. I just went to Georgia Tech and I got 5 masters. And this woman in the office, they only have 4, and you name their schools. But here are what companies look for. Strategic visioning. Your ability to see tomorrow and to see it within the context of growing an organization. It's authenticity. We talked about it. Being who you are. People being able to, being real, being feelable. Somebody can say, I know him. What he says he would do is what he would do. He's not going to change whether things are hard or not. These are the qualities, that flexibility and adaptability. You all talked about it in the conference, in the group. This go down, awareness, political judgment. Know when to keep your mouth, know when to say. It's not, but sometimes Christians say, well, but you have to say the truth. Huh? Yes, you have to say the truth with wisdom. And this is the kinds of things, analytical thinking. So all this, an ability to implement. Those are the kinds of skill sets that will take us to where we need to go. And I submit to you that with God's timing and laying hands and his purpose for you, when you develop these skill sets and know how to use them, you would rise at the appropriate time to the place that God wants you to be. As a minority, you need to devote yourself to this learning, to this understanding. Don't just parade the diploma. Put the diploma or the knowledge that came from the diploma into work. We go to school to get our degree just as a point of consumption, not investment. When you invest, these things come through. I love this. Be more prepared than anyone else. I told you about the young lady that was pregnant. When she got to that room, she said, Uncle, I didn't only give them plan A. I gave them plan A, plan B, plan C, plan D. How I am ready and prepared. And don't get me wrong, I really believe in the power of prayer. I also believe that when you have prayed, God can give you or would give you some ideas and tips. And then you work on it. You just don't lie down and say, miracleize me, miracleize me, miracleize me. And God says, I've given you everything within you. I've heard your prayers. Now move. There was a time in the life of Israel. Moses came, he said, move forward. So we need to be responsible and be able. So it's coming down here, and I will stop with this. I do a lot with emotional intelligence. We call this the VIP of leadership: vision, integrity, and perseverance. There is a book that is called What Got You Here Will Not Get You There. And that's the mistake. So you did all this and you got into a job. That's great. But your next job and exit strategy, the things that happen to get you where you are, may not be sufficient to take you to where you go. So I would stop at that. Let me give you a resource that I have put back for you. This one is Never Give Up. Okay. Here are the references that I want you to look at, to copy. I want to give you again the three principles that you need to look at. It's you need to have passion. You need to prepare. And you need to persevere. Nothing comes easy. But when you focus on it, it will come through. Click is by George Fraser. You heard that one. He's the one that said, one is not sufficient to do this. And I've laid out this. Miles Monroe has a good book on how you pass legacy. And the other one, dig your well. I read that many years ago. Said, dig your well before you get thirsty. And then the ability to negotiate. All the things that we talked about, sometimes we do not know the framework to negotiate, to come to a yes. So instead of, in our mind, coming to conflict, we just let it pass. And then the conflict inevitably comes to us. I've spent 30 minutes more than we said we will. Ete doesn't like us to run behind time. So Ete, how are we doing? Yeah, that's good. So with this, I would end it and maybe give it back to Jide and just talk for opening comments. I've really, really enjoyed you coming. I know you have spent your Saturday, and maybe Kojo, you're still around. Kojo, why not give me? Kojo is a good friend. He's from Ghana. He works with one of our previous competitors. I used to compete with him, but we're good friends. He's a boss man. I told him I was going to do this. He says, I'm coming immediately. In fact, he came from airport from North Carolina to be part of this. I want him to give a little 5 minutes testimony of what he has experienced as part of building a network. He lived in UK. How did he come to attend the level that he has done in such a short time? Kojo?
Thank you, sir. That's my boss forever. He keeps hiding from the handle. Today has been very good. Thank you for the nuggets of wisdom we've learned today, and for meeting some of you. The topic that we shared today is absolutely vital to our development and acceleration and attaining. You're giving me the big boss's microphone. Okay, thank you. Am I on? But I think this is a very, very vital topic, and I think let's not just see it as a seminar that we've come to and then we go home and then we throw these things away. Please, this is absolutely important. He talked about the fact that I grew up in London, and I went to school in London, moved here about 13 years ago, and I'm an engineer by profession. And there's one thing that I've learned, that to get to a certain level, someone has to pull you up. That is always a given. You can't get to, you can try as much as you can, know as much as you can, but until someone opens a door for you, you can end up being like a hamster on a treadmill. And we have a lot of Africans, and I encounter people all the time, where people, they have their education, they have the experience, but then for some reason, they are not where they could have been. And one of the things that I think helps a lot to bridge this gap is mentoring and checking your network, building a network. And building it, all the nuggets of wisdom. Please, I'm going to beg you again, the things on that sheet, on the presentation that has been printed out, please study them and then take action. Dr. Adiele and I, we joke a lot about Christians, we like to pray. Prayer is good. We all pray. But I tell you, the Bible says, watch and pray. There is a certain level of action that you're going to have to put in. Get to know people. And after work, get to know what sort of organizations are meeting. Try to get to know people that are, a friend of mine made a statement to me that stuck with me when I was younger. He said in his network, he always makes sure that he's the least person in it. Very powerful statement. He said he always makes sure that I'm the one they send around. Very powerful statement, okay? So please, it's important, connect yourself. I do what I do because, you know, he and I, we have a certain network. I leverage it a lot. I look up to them and they open doors for me. Very, very simple. It's a very simple thing, but I pursue people that I know can help me. I pursue them. So if it's a meeting that we're sitting here and there's somebody that I'm pursuing, I stay to make sure I talk to the person. But then I also must have some value, something that I bring to the table. So it's not just somebody help me, help me, help me. It's that mentoring doesn't work that way. Okay? There has to be something, about you that the person must want to mentor. And at the end of the day, the responsibility lies with you, the mentee, to chase the mentor. So please, that's the one thing that I'll just leave with you. Don't leave the notes, study them, put it into practice, get to know people. In this room, I can assure you there's somebody you can know, get to know that can know somebody, and then it's a domino effect. You get to know other people, and then other doors open. So thank you. Very nice meeting every one of you, and I hope to be part of this in the very near future again. Thank you.
Nobody is going to give it to you unless you really, really want it. You have to want it badly.
Yes, ma'am. Nice to meet you.